On a cold, rainy night in America, a police officer was about to lose her life, until a man the world had forgotten stepped out of the shadows. He had nothing, no home, no money, no future. But with his loyal dog by his side, he made a choice that changed everything. This is the powerful story of Anna, Michael, and Roy. A story that will remind you that true heroes are often the ones we least expect. Welcome to Folktales Hub. Please, while you are here, hit the subscribe button and share with friends. You know, sometimes the people we expect the least from are the ones who save us. This story begins on a rainy night in the heart of an American city. The streets were wet, the kind of wet that makes everything shine under the streetlights but also makes the world feel colder, lonelier. Officer Ana Torres was on duty that evening. She was young, determined, and carried herself with the strength of someone who had sworn to protect people, even when she was tired, even when the nights were long. Anna wasn't a stranger to danger. She had been trained, prepared, and tested. But she didn't know that this night would be one that changed her forever. Anna had just parked her patrol car near a row of old buildings when she noticed a figure leaning against a brick wall. At first glance, he looked like many of the city's forgotten souls. His clothes were worn out, his hair messy, and his beard untrimmed. The drizzle had soaked him through, but he didn't move. Beside him sat a dog, thin, with rough fur and tired eyes, but loyal. His name was Roy, and he didn't look away from the shadows of the alley across from them. His growl was low, steady, like a warning. Anna's hand moved to her holster out of habit. She had been taught to be careful, to never ignore her instincts. But what happened next wasn't something from her training. The man lifted his head slowly. His voice came out rough, broken, but heavy with urgency. "Don't talk," he whispered hoarsely. "Just listen." Anna froze. There was something in his tone, something that made her pause. It wasn't drunken slurring. It wasn't the nonsense she often heard from people lost to the streets. It was sharp. It was serious. She studied him more closely now. His face was tired, marked by hardship, but his eyes, they were alive. They burned with something urgent. He raised a shaky hand and pointed toward the alley. "He's been waiting there," the man said, voice trembling. "Watched you drive up. I saw him follow you." Anna felt her stomach tighten. She turned her head slowly toward the alley. From the outside it looked normal. Trash cans lined the wall. Rain dripped down from the rooftops. The light from the street barely reached inside. Nothing seemed unusual. But her gut told her otherwise. Roy growled louder, his ears standing. His body stiff like a soldier ready for battle. Anna whispered, "Who's there?" Her voice echoed off the wet walls. Silence. Nothing answered but the steady trickle of water. But then, a sound. Faint scuffle. The brush of shoes against pavement. Quick. Nervous. Anna's pulse quickened. She pressed her back against the car. Her weapon still holstered but her hand firm on it. Every part of her training told her something was wrong. The homeless man's voice cut through the sound of the rain again. "He's got a knife." Anna's chest tightened. She didn't see the blade yet, but she trusted the urgency in his words. And then, like a shadow tearing free from the dark, a figure bolted out of the alley. Anna's flashlight cut through the rain, slicing into the darkness. That's when she saw it, the glint of metal in his hand. A knife. The attacker lunged toward her, knife raised high. For a split second, time slowed. Anna's instincts screamed at her to draw her weapon, to fire. But before she could act, the man she had dismissed as a ragged stranger, the one no one else would have noticed, moved. Michael. That was his name, though she didn't know it yet. Michael pushed himself forward with everything he had. His body slammed into the attacker, both of them crashing to the wet pavement. The knife nearly slipped into him, the blade flashing inches from his skin, but he didn't let go. Roy barked furiously, teeth bared, darting in and snapping at the attacker's arm, giving Michael precious seconds to hold on. Anna finally drew her gun, but her hands trembled. She had never been in a situation quite like this. The danger wasn't just in front of her. It was tangled up with the man who had just saved her life. Her heart pounded. One wrong move and she could hit him instead of the attacker. The rain poured harder. The fight on the ground turned into a blur of arms, legs, and shadows. Michael's voice grunted through the struggle. "Get the knife." Anna's eyes locked on the blade. It slipped free for a second, skittering across the pavement, landing right near her boots. Without hesitation, she kicked it hard, sending it spinning far out of reach. She raised her gun again, voice sharp. "Stop! Police!" But the attacker struggled violently, cursing, thrashing against Michael's grip. Michael's body shook from the effort, but he didn't let go. Anna made a choice. She fired one shot into the air. The sound cracked through the night, louder than the storm, echoing off the walls. The attacker flinched, startled, and in that moment Michael twisted his arm, pinning him down with all his strength. Anna rushed in, snapping her cuffs onto the man's wrists with practiced force. The metal clicked shut, and just like that, it was over. The attacker groaned, struggling, but the fight had ended. Michael's chest heaved with exhaustion, rain and sweat dripping down his face. Roy sat close, his barking fading into quiet growls as if to say, "It's done. We did it." Anna stood there for a moment, gun still raised, her own chest heaving. She couldn't believe what had just happened. Her life, seconds away from being taken, had been saved not by her badge, not by her training, but by a man everyone else ignored. A man with nothing. A man with everything to lose. A man who chose to act. She lowered her weapon slowly, her eyes never leaving him. "You could have been killed," she said softly, her voice trembling. Michael shrugged, his words hoarse but steady. "So could you." There was no pride in his voice. No arrogance. Just truth. Roy leaned against his side, pressing close to the man who was his only family. His tail wagged faintly, a small sign of loyalty in the cold rain. Anna looked at the three of them, the attacker on the ground, the ragged man soaked through, the loyal dog standing guard, and realized something deep in her heart. That night, under the storm, her life had been spared not by the system she served, but by the humanity of someone she had almost overlooked. And she knew. This was only the beginning of their story. When the sound of sirens finally filled the air, Officer Ana Torres felt her heart begin to slow down. Backup had arrived, lights flashing red and blue against the wet streets. The attacker, still cursing under his breath, was dragged away in handcuffs by two officers who looked at Anna with questions in their eyes. "Who stopped him?" one of them asked. Anna hesitated. Her eyes went to the man sitting against the wall, drenched in rain, chest heaving from exhaustion. His dog Roy was curled at his side, tail wagging weakly. "He did," Anna said quietly. The other officers looked at each other. One of them raised an eyebrow as if to say, "Him." But Anna's sharp glare silenced the doubt. They didn't need to understand. She knew the truth. When the commotion settled and reports were being taken, Anna walked back to him. The rain had calmed into a light drizzle, but the man was still shivering. She crouched down, her eyes softening. "You saved my life," she said. He looked at her for a long moment before answering. "Did what I had to." His voice was rough, tired. Anna studied him closer now. Beneath the dirt and weathered skin, she saw something else. Sharpness. A weight in his eyes that came only from someone who had lived through more than most could bear. "What's your name?" she asked gently. He hesitated, then whispered, "Michael." And just like that, he wasn't just a nameless shadow anymore. He was Michael, a man with a name, a man who had chosen to risk everything for her. She wanted to insist he go to the hospital. The knife could have cut him, the struggle could have left hidden injuries. But when she mentioned it, he shook his head firmly. "No hospitals," he said, his voice low, final. His eyes flickered with something, fear, maybe shame. Anna didn't push. Instead, she walked back to her patrol car, retrieved a blanket, and handed it to him. Michael accepted it silently, draping it over his soaked shoulders. Roy nudged closer, curling into his side, as if sharing the small warmth they had. "Thank you," Anna said softly. 2 words but heavy with sincerity. Michael only nodded. He didn't ask for praise. He didn't want recognition. And before Anna could say more, he rose slowly, his blanket clutched around him, and slipped into the shadows with Roy. By the time Anna thought to follow, he was gone. For the next few days, Anna couldn't stop thinking about him. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the knife, the rain, the ragged man who had thrown himself into danger to protect her. She remembered the way Roy had barked, the way Michael had held onto the attacker with a strength that came from somewhere deeper than muscle. She tried to bury herself in work. Reports, calls, patrols. But Michael stayed in her mind like a whisper she couldn't ignore. Who was he really? How did he end up there, in that alley, with nothing but a dog by his side? Why would a man who had nothing risk everything for her? Anna decided she had to find him. She began driving the same streets where they had met, slowing at corners, scanning alleys. She asked at shelters if anyone had seen a man with a scruffy dog named Roy. Everyone seemed to know of him, but no one knew exactly where he stayed. "He keeps to himself," one volunteer told her. "Doesn't talk much. Just comes by sometimes for food." Days passed. Then, one quiet evening, while patrolling a district she didn't usually cover, Anna saw him. Michael was leaning against a crumbling wall, Roy curled at his feet. The dog's ears perked up at the sound of her car, tail wagging faintly. Anna stepped out slowly, careful not to scare him. "I thought I'd never see you again," she said. Michael lifted his head, eyes tired but calm. "Thought you'd forgotten." "Not a chance," Anna replied. She held out a sandwich and a bottle of water from her bag. Michael accepted them silently. Roy sat up, tail thumping on the pavement as if thanking her. For a moment none of them spoke. The city moved around them, people passing by without a second glance. To everyone else Michael was invisible. But to Anna he was unforgettable. Finally she asked, "Why did you do it?" "That night." Michael scratched Roy's ear, his gaze fixed on the ground. At first he didn't answer. Then in a voice so quiet she almost missed it he said, "Because no one else would. And because you didn't look at me like trash when you saw me." Anna's chest tightened. His words struck deep. That was the beginning of something unexpected. Over the weeks that followed, Anna kept finding reasons to check on him. Sometimes she brought food. Sometimes blankets. And sometimes just conversation. Michael was guarded, but slowly pieces of his story slipped through. He had once lived a normal life. Steady job. Small apartment. He had dreams just like anyone else. But then came hardship. A sickness that drained his savings, the loss of his family, and finally the streets. "I lost everything," he admitted one night. His voice barely a whisper. "Except Roy. He never left me." Anna glanced at the dog, who wagged his tail proudly at the mention of his name. Roy wasn't just a pet. He was family. Michael looked down at the ground, shame flickering in his eyes. "Out here people don't see you anymore. You become invisible. Like you don't exist." Anna wanted to tell him he was wrong, that she saw him clearly. But the words caught in her throat. Instead, she sat beside him on the curb, her uniform damp from the cold pavement, her presence speaking louder than words. It became a routine. Whenever she could, Anna sought him out. And each time she discovered more about him. Michael wasn't just surviving, he was sharp, thoughtful, intelligent. He spoke of history, books he once read, places he once dreamed of visiting. His mind was alive, even if his body lived in shadows. "You're wasted out here," Anna told him once. He gave a bitter smile. "World doesn't want men like me anymore." But Anna disagreed. She began to see Michael not as a homeless man, but as someone with dignity hidden beneath layers of pain. One stormy night, Anna found him sheltering under a bridge. The rain was merciless, the kind that cut into your skin like knives. "You can't stay here," she said firmly. "Come with me." Just for the night. Michael shook his head. I don't belong there. But Roy nudged him forward, his big eyes pleading. Michael sighed, defeated by the one friend he could never say no to. At the station, curious eyes followed them. Whispers floated in the air. Some officers sneered, but Anna silenced them with a look. He saved my life, she reminded them. And just like that, the room grew quiet. For one night, Michael and Roy had a roof, a warm meal, and a cot to rest on. Michael didn't stay long. The next day, he was back on the streets. But something had changed. It felt strange, he admitted later. Like I didn't belong. But also like I remembered what it felt like to be human again. Anna smiled gently. You never stopped being human, Michael. And from that night on, their bond grew stronger. Trouble, however, was never far away. One evening, Anna got a call about a disturbance near an abandoned warehouse. When she arrived, her heart sank. Michael was there, cornered by a group of young men, their voices sharp with mockery, threatening to take Roy. Leave him alone, Anna shouted, her badge glinting in the dim light. The gang sneered but scattered when backup arrived. Michael was left bruised, shaken but alive. Roy pressed close to him, growling protectively. Anna knelt beside him, her voice steady but filled with concern. Are you okay? Michael avoided her eyes. You don't owe me this. Anna shook her head firmly. Yes, I do. You saved me once. Now it's my turn. For the first time, Michael didn't argue. He let her patch up his wounds with the small first aid kit she carried. And in that silence, something unspoken passed between them. Anna realized she wasn't just helping a stranger anymore. She was protecting someone who mattered to her. Someone who had already changed her life. By then, Michael had become more than a memory of a rainy night. He had become a part of her story. And though he didn't know it yet, Anna was determined to make sure he never disappeared back into the shadows again. Because sometimes the people the world overlooks are the very ones who carry the light we all need. And Michael, ragged clothes, tired eyes, loyal dog by his side, was one of them. The winter that year was brutal. Bitter winds cut through the streets, and snow piled high on corners, turning alleys into frozen traps. Officer Ana Torres found herself worrying constantly. Not about crime. Not about her job. But about Michael and Roy. She had grown used to their meetings, those small moments that softened the weight of her days. A sandwich shared on a park bench. A quiet talk under the flicker of a street lamp. The way Michael's eyes would sometimes light up with memory when he spoke of the man he used to be. But when the first snowstorm hit, Michael vanished. Anna searched everywhere. Shelters, soup kitchens, the places he usually lingered. No one had seen him in days. At night, when she lay in bed, she imagined him out there, huddled against the cold, Roy pressed to his side, their breaths fogging in the frozen air. The thought gnawed at her. She had made a silent promise to herself. She wouldn't let him slip away, not again. It was on the fourth night of searching that she finally found him. Michael was collapsed under the skeletal frame of an abandoned bus stop, wrapped in nothing but a thin blanket. Roy whimpered softly, pawing at his arm, as if begging him not to give up. Michael! Anna cried, dropping to her knees. His eyes fluttered open. He looked at her as though through a dream. Anna! His voice was hoarse, cracked from the cold. Without hesitation, Anna bundled him into her patrol car. She didn't care about rules or questions. All she cared about was keeping him alive. That night, Michael and Roy stayed in Anna's small apartment for the first time. She gave him her couch, extra blankets, and hot soup. Roy curled happily on a rug, his tail thumping against the floor. Michael was quiet, ashamed even, as though accepting help was a sin. But Anna looked at him firmly. You saved me once, Michael. I told you. I'm not letting you disappear. For the first time, he didn't argue. He simply whispered, thank you. The days that followed were different. Michael still kept his distance emotionally, but slowly, he allowed Anna into his world. He shaved, showered, and wore some old clothes Anna found. Beneath the dirt and the weariness, she saw glimpses of the man he once was. His posture straightened. His eyes, though still shadowed, carried sparks of life. Roy, of course, fit right into her home, curling at the foot of the couch, tail wagging at every sound of kindness. Still, Michael insisted he couldn't stay long. "This isn't my life," he told her one morning, staring out the frosted window. "I don't belong in houses. I'm not like you." Anna shook her head. "You're human. That's all that matters. And you belong more than you think." But Michael only sighed, retreating back into silence. The turning point came unexpectedly. One afternoon, Anna got a call about a missing child. A little girl named Emily had wandered away from her home near the park. Panic spread quickly. Every second mattered in the freezing cold. Anna and the other officers combed the streets, calling her name. But as daylight faded, hope began to dim. Then Michael appeared. He had been walking Roy near the edge of the park when he overheard the search. "I know these streets better than anyone," he told Anna firmly. "Let me help." At first, the other officers dismissed him. But Anna nodded. "We'll cover more ground with him." Michael whistled for Roy. The dog barked eagerly, as if understanding the mission. Together they darted through alleys, checked under bridges, and searched the hidden places where a scared child might hide. Hours passed. Then, near the edge of a frozen lot, Roy began barking wildly. Michael followed, and there, huddled beneath a pile of old cardboard, was Emily. Shivering, crying, too weak to call out. "Hey, sweetheart," Michael said softly, crouching low. His voice was calm, gentle, the kind that eased fear. "It's okay. You're safe now." Emily looked up, tears freezing on her cheeks. Roy wagged his tail, nudging close as if to warm her. Michael scooped her into his arms, wrapping his own coat around her small body. When Anna arrived moments later, her heart leapt. "Michael!" she cried, relief flooding her voice. He handed Emily to her carefully. She was just trying to hide from the cold. "I found her." Anna's eyes stung with tears. "You didn't just find her. You saved her life." The city saw Michael differently after that night. News spread quickly. The homeless man and his dog who had found the missing child. For once, people didn't look at him with suspicion. They looked at him with gratitude. But Michael himself seemed conflicted. At the station, while Emily's parents hugged him and thanked him, Michael shifted uncomfortably, his eyes downcast. He wasn't used to being seen. Later, when they were alone, Anna asked him gently, "Why do you look so sad? You were a hero tonight." Michael shook his head. "I'm no hero. Just a broken man who happened to be in the right place." Anna placed a hand on his arm. "No, Michael. You've been a hero all along. The world just finally noticed." That night changed everything. The local shelter offered Michael a room. Volunteers donated clothes, food, even job opportunities. But most importantly, Michael began to believe that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't invisible anymore. He started spending time at the police station, helping officers understand the struggles of the homeless. He knew their world better than anyone. And slowly, the department began listening. One day, Anna found him speaking to a group of young recruits. His voice was steady, his eyes alive. He told them about the dangers of ignoring people, about the value of looking deeper than appearances. "These streets are full of souls who've been forgotten," he said. "But forgotten doesn't mean worthless. Sometimes, the ones you overlook are the very ones who'll stand up when it matters most." The recruits listened in silence, their faces thoughtful. Anna watched from the back of the room, pride swelling in her chest. Michael wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living. Months passed, and spring slowly melted the snow. The city began to bloom again. Michael had found steady work at a community center, helping others who faced the same struggles he once did. He and Roy had a small room to call their own, warm and safe. Anna still visited often, sometimes sharing meals, sometimes just walking with him and Roy through the park. Their bond had grown unshakable, a friendship built not on pity, but on respect and trust. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Anna asked him, "Do you ever think about the night we first met?" Michael chuckled softly. "How could I forget? A rainy alley, a man with nothing, and a stubborn cop who wouldn't look away." Anna smiled. "If you hadn't been there, I don't know if I'd even be alive."